All right. Hello, everyone. It's the top of the hour, so we can go ahead and get started. Just a couple of intros before we get started today. I'm Kaylee Hansen, a pre-sale and business solutions consultant at SVA. Joining me today is Miranda on our business applications team and Jeremy from our data team. And then Austin, our customer success manager, will be monitoring the chat and any questions that you guys have as well. So just a couple of brief intros and some new faces that you may have seen. But today's webinar is all about AI. So we'll kind of walk through some different components, highlighting some of the AI and Acumatica that exists today and what's on the roadmap. So as we go through today's session, please feel free to ask questions. Again, Austin will be monitoring that chat, and if it makes sense to kind of stop and pause and walk through that question as we're going through, we'll do so. Otherwise, we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. So just in terms of what to expect today, Jeremy will kind of kick us off with some background in AI. What is it? What are the different types of AI? And then Miranda and I will walk through a demo within Acumatica to show some of the features that exist today, as well as some of the features that are on the roadmap. And then we'll get into kind of where to start. So Jeremy will then wrap us up with walking through kind of our approach to starting these conversations with you guys and what that can start to look like. So with that, I'll kind of pass it over to Jeremy and let him start.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremy Prulian. I'm an AI solutions architect here at SVA. And as we start talking about AI, we have to establish that really everybody's talking about it right now. And in reality, everybody is wanting to talk to you about AI, including us in this webinar. I'm sure your inboxes are being flooded with emails about AI news, new AI features from software companies, cold outreaches from AI startups. And the reality is AI is moving fast. And that's because the technology is evolving just as fast. Where traditional technologies may take 2 to 3 years to have major breakthroughs in their technologies, AI breakthroughs are occurring at a pace of once every 3 to 6 months, with minor breakthroughs occurring even more often than that. And right now, in the general landscape of AI, people have started to adopt it in their daily lives and in workplaces. 78% of organizations are already using AI in at least one business function. So it's not something for the future, it's something that's happening right now. And I'm sure all of you are feeling the same as I'm feeling, which is I know that I need to use AI within my organization, but sometimes it's hard to know where to start. One great example I've heard in comparing the AI landscape is this image of an escalator, right? When you were a kid and you wanted to take your very first step onto an escalator, it's pretty daunting. You don't know when to get your feet on, but as soon as you do, you start rising up and everything's all good. Well, in the AI landscape, this escalator isn't just moving at the same pace. With the rate in which these technologies are evolving, the escalator is just moving faster and faster and faster. So it may feel like it's hard to hop on board and you don't know when to get started, and really you don't want to be left behind. But I want to remind you that in the midst of all of this, AI is not a replacement for humans. AI is a tool that is meant to empower us. And regardless of how quickly these technologies are developing, you and I are still going to have problems, inefficiencies, things in our organization that AI is really just a tool to help solve, right? So it shouldn't be this daunting thing where we don't know where to get started. It should be something that's exciting for helping us personally and our organizations unlock our potential. And at SVA, we want to help guide you through when to hop on that escalator and to ride the AI wave, right? So to know where to start, we want to start by simply demystifying and understanding what AI is and what AI isn't. Now, we think of AI potentially as this magical catch-all for any sort of, mystical AI thing that will automate and fix all aspects of our business. But in reality, AI is just like any other technology. It's got different tools within this AI toolbox that help with different problems that you might be facing within your organization. So let's take a look at some of them. From an automate perspective, Well, if you want to automate repetitive and error-prone processes, one example of that may be reading data off of something static like a PDF, which has unstructured data, and being able to pass that data into other systems and have that flow through automatically. Well, what's driving the ability to read data off of a PDF is something called OCR, or ocular character recognition. And in the end, that is just an AI tool that is helping us extract that data quickly and efficiently. For autonomous, we are talking about things like self-driving cars, robots. Well, those are machines that make their own decisions based on data that they receive in real time, right? You may have heard of an LLM, or a large language model. Well, all that is it's an AI model that is good at processing and generating natural language. So whenever you type into ChatGPT, help me make this email a little bit more clear, and it returns you a nice email that you'll go and send out. Well, that's just processing your human language through this LLM and returning you something in natural human language. Similarly, there's diffusion models, which do that for images, audio, and video. And lastly, we can talk about things that augment. So things that identify trends in your data and recommend actions based on the trends that they see. So this could be machine learning algorithms, or feeding data into other models to help process that data quickly. Now, when we talk about this, again, these are all just tools, and not all of these are always going to be AI. For example, within Acumatica, you can have automation like an approval map. You've got control people, you've got approval switches. It's all based on processes that you define. So that is automation. But whenever you want automation, that has a level of intelligence behind it, with pools of information and data that help to process your decisions. Well, that's where you can start thinking about additional AI tools on top of this. And so in the end, AI is really just a collection of tools that help you solve your business problems. So today we're going to be talking about some of those tools in your toolbox through Acumatica specifically, and what's in the current and future state of that. So I'll pass it back on to Kaylee to discuss that further.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. So I'll go ahead, we'll start to show some of the features in Acumatica, and we'll notice when looking at just this diagram that Jeremy has up right now, that some of the areas that Acumatica is currently in and then kind of expanding to include that AI automate, augment, and then the LLM and diffusion model as well. So we'll see some of those examples as we go through, and we'll kind of point those out. But quickly, before we transition into the software itself, to Jeremy's point, you guys are probably used to a lot of the automation features that exist already. But then there's kind of a different type of automation as it relates to AI in terms of, how do you add additional intelligence on top of that? So we'll kind of walk through some of those scenarios specifically. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right. So we'll start by kind of showing within that top corner there, some of those AI automate features. So think things like document recognition. We've seen these in a couple of past webinars, but this is really one area that Acumatica has pretty built out in terms of some of their AI offerings to be able to use that OCR technology that Jeremy referenced earlier to kind of read different documents and help automate that process of importing in data into your system, for example. So kind of two key areas in Acumatica that exist with this functionality today are on the expense side. So the expense receipts, I'll walk through that example, and then also on the AP document side. So then Miranda will walk through that example as well. So kind of some features that exist today. So we'll show you just a high level how we'll start to use those in the technology there. So if I'm in Acumatica, here I am on my mobile app, and I can go into my expense receipts. So if I'm, buying certain things, need to expense those to my organization, I can do so through these expense receipts. And as you guys are probably aware, if you're tracking a lot of expenses or traveling a lot, these can get hard to kind of maintain. So this starts to make this process a little bit easier. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I can take a picture of my receipt, or I can upload one if I have taken a picture of that, as I'm traveling, for example. So this is my receipt. It's a little crinkled, not the prettiest thing, but this is where that OCR technology will come in and leverage AI to read this for me. So you'll see it's pulling in the description of, in this case, the restaurant that I went to. I could add additional description if I wanted to. I can go ahead and add a specific expense item. This is where some of that machine learning technology can come into play as well. So if there's consistent receipts from this restaurant, for example, it can start to recognize that it should be attached to that expense item. And then we'll see that it's pulling in the amount from the receipt. I can override whether I paid with a corporate card or a personal card, can kind of save that as well. And then I can go ahead and save it. And you'll notice that, again, it read that for me, and then it also attached that file so that as I submit this expense receipt, this file will be attached as well. So again, kind of in that AI automation stage at the top of that screen that Jeremy had provided to use, again, that OCR technology for, in this example, expense receipts. That similar technology exists on the AP bill side. So I'll have Miranda kind of show you how that works as well.
Awesome.
Those will leverage the same technology there.
Thank you, Kaylee. So you guys can see my screen here. So yeah, I'm going to be walking you through the incoming documents. So you can use this screen to submit multiple or one document, and the system will process it for you. So we're going to walk through this. It's going to be in your payables, and then if we show all at the bottom, incoming documents here, we'll go to this screen. And you'll notice this is the new UI here. We have some filters here. So right now we're on pending processing. We could go to all of our processing. We could go to all records, but I'm going to go up to the top here and press this plus button for us. We're going to walk through how to create this document here. Move around my screen here. So you'll notice this is all empty, and you're going to drag and drop your file here. Again, you can do this with many on the screen that we just looked at before, or we can do this once. So I'm going to go over and just drag and drop my file here. You'll notice that file's coming in. We can look at it, make sure it's the right one, double checking everything. You can have multiple formats for this as well. So kind of keep that in mind as you're going through and working with these. But you'll notice we have nothing kind of pending over here. Nothing's been filled in for us. So you'll have to go up and press recognize. This will take a couple seconds, but it's actually pretty fast. So we'll let this process for a second here. And once this is done, you'll notice that a lot of this information is going to populate for you. So it's bringing in that vendor that it recognized there. It's bringing in that vendor location. We can come in and change those if they need to be changed. It's bringing in that vendor reference. Maybe we want to come in and enter a description because there wasn't one provided here. And then it's also bringing in those totals here. So if we highlight on those, it's seeing where it's pulling that from the document. So again, maybe it grabbed the wrong one. We need to come in and change that. We can do so. And then you'll notice in this bottom section here as well, it's bringing in this line item that we have. So if you have many, it's going to bring in all of those line items for you. Right now, this document isn't saved as a bill in the system yet. It's still kind of in this processing state. So we'll go up to the top and press save and continue. And it's going to take us to that bills and adjustments screen where it's now going to create that bill for us. Again, bringing in all that information that it just scanned from that PDF that we imported. Again, we can always come and change that information. Maybe we need to adjust the line items, maybe add another one, all of that good information. And then you'll move that through your typical process as a bill. Again, you can do this for many documents or single documents like the example we just walked through. The next item I want to walk through is the GI anomaly detection.
And
So
Miranda, one question that came in before we transition there.
Yes.
Someone asked if this feature is additional module. So the answer to that is it's the same module, so it's included within the payables, but it is licensed separately. So it would be licensed based on how many vendor AP bills that you have on a monthly basis. So if you guys reach out to us and you want to add this to your license, we're able to price that out for you as well. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you,
Perfect.
Kaylee, with sharing. I can't see the chat, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So awesome. Next, we're going to get into the GI anomaly detection. So in 2024, Acumatica introduced the GI anomaly detection, so users can quickly identify and highlight potential data issues and easily configure scenarios to meet their individual business needs. Again, Acumatica uses an in-house AI agent for this, so nothing is leaving the ERP. All of your data is staying in-house for that. So I'm going to walk you through the setup. We'll walk through the process of how to get that data, import it into the GI, and then kind of look at that GI and see what it gives us into the data. So we're going to go into our screen here. We're going to close this out. We're going to go into our generic inquiries here, and you can go into any generic inquiry and add this feature to it. So you'll notice with that new license that Kaylee just talked about, that is the same for this as well. And with that, you get this detect anomalies checkbox on the top of your generic inquiry. This one I already have set up just for time constraints here, but you'll check that on and then it'll populate this additional tab here called Anomaly Detection. Again, I already have this set up, but we'll walk through all the settings you have available to you. So you're going to do your fields to analyze. So what do we want to analyze for this generic inquiry? Again, these are going to be different based on the generic inquiry that you're looking at. So for this one, for example, looking at the sales order margin analysis, GI. And right now we're looking at margin percent. And then you can also choose to select a date field for timeline. That is optional, but it allows the system to factor in the passing of time to help with trends and everything like that. And then you'll get into your grouping. You can choose to skip the empty groups or not. And then you can filter on what you want to group this by. So what is the anomaly detection looking at? And for this example, we have it filtered down to inventory ID. You'll notice again for this, based on the generic inquiry that you're looking at, you have multiple options to select from. Again, you can do many. I would recommend not doing too many though, because then the system doesn't know how to slice the data there. So for this example, we're going to walk through that inventory ID there. And then the last setting that you'll have to select is this update frequency. So you can choose to do on demand, where you're processing this whenever you need that data. You can do daily, weekly, or monthly. And then based on that, you can also set up schedules on the generic inquiry, on the detect anomaly screen. So that'll process that data automatically for you. We'll walk through that in just a second. So once you have all of those settings set up, we can refresh this here. And then you'll go to this Detect Anomalies at the very top, and it's going to take you to a separate screen called Detect Anomalies and Generic Inquiries. And this is where you're going to process that data, have the system calculate all that information for you. And again, we had the system process this automatically, but I'll walk you through the steps here. So you go up, select whatever inquiry you're grabbing and that you want to process. You'll check that checkbox and then process it, or you can process all. Again, this is where we can leverage that schedule to say, okay, we want this to run weekly and have it automatically run that data for you. Again, it's bringing in what fields we're wanting to analyze there. Are we using data or date, sorry, and then how are we grouping this data as well? It's showing you all that information. When was it last executed? All that good stuff for you. And then on the bottom, it's going to move you through a couple steps. So you'll want to start the process. The first step is going to be that you downloaded the data. So this status here will be data download or uploaded. And then when you're ready, you can press execute next step, and it's going to change to calculation in progress. And this can take a couple minutes. You'll see how long this one kind of took. So be patient there again, but it's not too long. Again, it just kind of depends how many lines it's having to analyze there. And then once that data is ready, you'll press this execute next step button again, and it'll say ready to download. And then one last time, press it, and then it'll be complete, and that generic inquiry will be updated. Again, typically you won't have to run through this process automatically, but those are the steps that you'll have to go through. And then once you have all that information, now it's going to populate that generic inquiry for you. So we can kind of look at what this data found. So you'll notice right here, a lot of these are yellow. And if we highlight on this kind of warning over here, it's basically saying there wasn't enough records fitting the grouping that you chose for the system to analyze. So any of those will show up yellow. And then in the anomaly severity here, those are going to be the ones that are empty. And if we take out that filter, you'll notice that we have a lot that are in the normal anomaly severity here, and those are going to be in a white color. So it's kind of highlighting and telling you which ones you need to focus on. So based on the margin percentage that we're looking for and the expected that we're hoping to have, that's how the system is kind of calculating for this example that we're walking through. And then if we take out that normal, we can then look at which ones do we need to pay attention to. So that medium severity and the significant severity as well. We don't have any in that category, but if we did, those would show up here as well in a dark red. So as we're kind of going through these, you'll notice if I scroll over to the right that you have a comments section. So maybe you're going through this and you say, yep, we approved this, this is good to go. The comments that are housed in this section are going to be held on this generic inquiry, so they won't go to the individual record. So I've seen clients in the past go into those individual records. For this example, that sales order, and maybe you just make a note on this sales order saying, yep, it was approved, so that anyone on your team can see that as well. So that's an option from here. And then once you've reviewed it, maybe you add a comment there. Then you can come in and say, yep, it's reviewed. And if I go in and refresh the GI now, that is going to stay at a severity of medium, but now you'll notice that it's changing to that white. So again, helping you go through each individual record, make sure you're checking all of them, say, why was this an issue? Should we be concerned about this? Making that note, and then you can kind of move it through and review it that way. You do also have, I'm going to add back our filters here. You do also have some tabs up at the very top. So if we press Show Anomaly Settings, it's going to show you how the anomaly detection was run the last time. So it's telling you what it was looking for, what it was included, what that grouping is there, and then that frequency as well. So that can be helpful. And then you also have filter by group. So based on whatever line you're filtered on, we can go up to the top and press Filter by group. It's going to filter this generic inquiry to whatever you're highlighted on based on the grouping that you have in those settings that we set up on the generic inquiry. Again, to clear that out, we can just go in and clear that out, and then it's back and reset. And then the last tab you have up at the top is Detect Anomalies, and that's just going to take you to that processing screen that we looked at before, again, how we got that data. But like I said before, a schedule is going to be super helpful for this. So that is how you can kind of leverage the GI anomaly detection there. I'll pass it back over to Kaylee, and she's going to walk you through the AI roadmap for Acumatica.
Yeah, thanks, Miranda. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. A couple of just comments after showing that anomaly detection. Again, that is available within Acumatica today in the most recent version. And to Miranda's point, you can use that across different generic inquiries in the system. So a common one would be the example that she showed, where maybe you want to detect anything that's kind of going astray in terms of my margin on specific items across my sales orders. Another one might be, on the vendor bill side. So if you get recurring vendors, on a monthly basis that are sending you bills, maybe you want to just see if there's any discrepancies in what they're sending you. That tool can easily draw your attention to anything that might be going wrong over there as well. So that's kind of in that augment area of the components that Jeremy walked through as well, in terms of being able to identify trends and then using AI to recognize those trends and then recommend various actions from them. But now some of the exciting stuff in terms of what's to come for AI, I'll kind of walk through that now, and I'll switch my screen over to a video that Acumatica had produced on these upcoming features. And so the two we'll highlight are, one is the AI assistant, and the other is the AI studio. And really those will start to get pretty deep into those LLM models and the diffusion models that Jeremy had walked through as well. All right, so I'll go ahead and share my screen, and then we'll walk through this, starting with this AI assistant tool. So again, this isn't yet in production, but this is what it will start to look like in Acumatica as this rolls out in some of the future releases. So you'll notice that there's an AI assistant that is now popping up on that right-hand side at the top, similar to that knowledge base. And we can start to use this like a chatbot. And so it's going to use the data that exists directly in Acumatica and kind of aggregate it for us. So we can start to ask it questions such as, how are my sales today? Either by typing that in or using that kind of voice command. And the results that it produces will be based off of what exists in Acumatica. So in this example, it's going to pull the net sales for that day, It's also comparing it to stuff like yesterday's sales. So it's automatically kind of doing that for you. And then it can provide additional prompts as well, such as, do you want to see more details? And if you say yes, it's trimming your data on that specific generic inquiry to show you anything that meets the sales for today. From there, you could start to ask more granular questions. So maybe I want to know, what were my top 5 orders for today? So we could go ahead and start to ask that as well. And as you would imagine, it's going to start to provide responses, again, based on what exists in Acumatica. So now it's saying, hey, here are your top 5 orders for the day. And it's going further to produce a chart for me as well. So if I said view chart, in this case I did, it's going to produce a specific chart kind of at an ad hoc basis based off of whatever prompt or question I asked this chatbot. Again, I could continue to ask follow-up items, get a bit more granular. So if I wanted to say, what were the top items that were sold? I could also ask that question. And as you'd imagine, it's going to pull from what exists in the system. And again, I could create kind of an ad hoc chart based off of that as well through this AI assistant tool. So pretty robust in terms of some of the functionality there. This will be rolled out not in this next release, but some future releases after that. But really starting to get more into that true kind of AI, LLM models and diffusion models that we saw in that initial slide. So it's kind of one of the examples. The other one that I'll show is what's called the AI Studio. So it's going to be similar in terms of kind of the technology there. But this is a little bit different, that it's similar to a ChatGPT in a way where it's kind of that direct LLM in Acumatica. So one specific example here would be, maybe on the CRM side, you have multiple different cases, maybe on support, on an opportunity, for example, and you just want the system to generate, a summary of all of those activities into a closure note, as we'll call it. So you're prompting it to create that closure note. Again, it's using AI to summarize all of those different activities that exist on that record, and then it's providing this summary. So that's kind of one example. You could go ahead and review it. Of course, you'd be able to make changes. Very similar to something like a ChatGPT, as we're aware of, that you can produce those responses or have it produce those responses and then have the ability to kind of edit it further if needed. And kind of how this starts to work is there's kind of different AI prompt writers. So similar to ChatGPT, how you're going to prompt it something and need something to work in order to kind of go through that, you'll have that AI prompt editor within this AI Studio feature as well. And so this is where you could start to build and save different prompts so that you can come back to them. So in this case, if I'm looking at the closure notes, it's telling it things like, can you have, a short problem statement, the problem symptoms, and what the resolution details were. So those are the types of things that you would prompt this AI engine where you want those results to exist. And again, this is where you can create different prompts, save them, and then reuse them in the future as well.
And we do have a quick question
go
there
ahead.
that I feel like would be appropriate to address now, Kaylee, if you don't mind. And
Yeah.
that is one of our attendees asked, can we use the AI assistant to help create generic inquiries if we provide what we are looking for? So for example, what model or field or data, et cetera. So if they provide the parameters, is that something that this AI functionality is able to do based on what's possible as of today or in future states?
Yeah, so since it's a roadmap item, I know they're kind of fully fleshing out what's all included in that. But from my understanding on how it exists today, if you have that data living in something like a generic inquiry somewhere, similar to how you created that chart, it could create kind of a smaller GI version for you as well to kind of trim that data. Again, not fully fleshed out in terms of the full documentation around that. So we'd want to kind of check back and confirm that one for sure. But really the purpose of that one is as long as the data lives within Acumatica, you'll be able to then produce things like charts and different views and responses using that AI assistant directly. And as a follow-up to this, Austin, it might make sense to just send over, there's a link on Acumatica that they've done some of this discussion around these roadmap features as well. So we could send that as a follow-up as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kaylee.
Yeah. All right. This next example is, again, using this AI Studio feature, but one specific example here is we're going to prompt it to create item descriptions for us, maybe based off of an external resource, like a website or a vendor website, for example. So in this case, we have that prompt created. And then here, instead of having to create a specific description for it, we can use this AI Studio to create that description for us. Again, pulling in that language, maybe taking it from an external source, or just the types of descriptions that you have in the system today as well. So kind of two of those highlights, a lot more to come, but some of the kind of sneak peek, so to say, that they've given us at this point, and wanted to share with you some exciting stuff there. All right, with that, I'll kind of stop sharing. Hopefully some of this is a bit exciting, but we'll kind of pass it back over to Jeremy to walk through, how to get started and kind of what our process looks like.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. So as you're looking to utilize not only these AI features within Acumatica, but looking at your organizational journey of AI in general, and aiming for success and scale and full organizational enablement, we've created a sort of three-step framework that is how we think about navigating this AI journey. And that has to do with assess, enable, and activate. So first, you need to understand if your people, processes, and platforms are ready for the AI journey. Then you can close any people, process, or data gaps and ensure that you've got change governed. And finally, let's deliver measurable results with AI solutions on top of that. So just to give an idea of what this might look like, if you're an organization that knows that you want to start adopting AI organization wide but don't know where to begin, we'd say you could enter in this assess phase. If you know that your employees are using tools like ChatGPT and Copilot, but don't know if it's secure or governed and you want it to be, then we'd say take a look at the enable phase. Similarly, if you want to use AI solutions on your own data, whether it's Acumatica data or other tools that you're using outside of it, but you don't know how to get that started, we'd also say take a look at our enable phase. And if you do have time-consuming and manual processes that need to be automated that you think could use an AI solution, well, we'd say let's take a look at what that solution might be and help you activate that. So to go into a little bit more detail about what these look like, within our assess phase, we do have an AI enablement assessment. And the key of this is that the compass in which we're looking at AI enablement across your organization is your problems, your people, your processes, and your platforms or your data. So again, regardless of what technologies you deploy, and keep in mind that AI technologies are evolving at a rapid pace, the underlying problems that you're facing on a day-to-day basis and across your organization strategy is what's going to drive which solutions we would recommend deploying. So we want to understand those problems. We want to understand, are your people ready for change and ready for AI? Is there any training that needs to happen? What are your processes, your business processes, and where are there opportunities um, for automation and AI enablement? And are your platforms and your data systems ready to support those? So with that, in our assessment, we try and understand all of this within your organization through an organizational AI use survey, as well as conducting functional interviews and committees. With this, we also want to ensure that we're prioritizing your use cases. So within your POC use cases, we want to focus on the ones that are technically feasible with a high chance of success. We want to make sure that they're meaningful and ROI driven and executable by small teams with room to scale so that you can prove out the value of AI and start gaining this organization-wide adoption of it. So from our assessment, we do have outputs of understanding your gap analysis, having some readiness scorecards and roadmaps, and establishing some change management and governance councils so that as you progress, you have a solid foundation. So moving on to that enable phase, really the key of this is SVA can help close any gaps that stand between you and meaningful adoption. So if there are things that are identified through the assessment, such as your data systems and your data pipelines aren't quite ready for AI, then we can help you build those out and help standardize, high quality data sets. If you're worried about governance and compliance, we can help you build out policy creations, think through usage, ethics, risk. If it's as simple as people are using ChatGPT, but you're worried that your company's sensitive data is being input in there, and you want to make sure that you're on the right enterprise license to capture the governance and compliance risks there, then we can help you roll out enterprise Gen AI. And when it comes to talents and skills, change management, we can also help you build out those platforms to make sure that your people know how to use AI and know how to use it properly. So at the end, after we've identified some POCs and helped you think through those use cases that are technically feasible and have a high chance of success, then we can help you build those out. So we'll deploy those POCs in a controlled environment, monitor your performance and adoption, collect feedback, and we make sure to have retrospectives. We need to be agile, especially as our technologies are changing. So if it's a successful solution, then we can look to productionalize it and grow it across, let's say, different functions. And if it's something that isn't scalable, then we can look to sunset that. While this is all going on, there's ongoing change management to make sure that your people, your processes, your platforms, and your problems are all aligned there. So that's the framework in which we see AI enablement. We've got some of our feasible use cases within Acumatica right now. And yeah, I'll pass this back to Kaylee to wrap it up for us and take a look at any questions.
Yeah, awesome. I saw quite a few questions flowing in the chat, but Austin, I think we covered most of them. Is there anything open at this point?
We did get a chance to address all questions. So as Kaylee mentioned, we'll follow up with some of the resources in regards to those roadmap items that you saw a preview of here today. Additionally, just based on some of the questions that I was seeing, I do want to remind all those in attendance today that we do host all of these recordings from past webinars on our YouTube channel. So there's a SVA Consulting Acumatica webinar playlist within our YouTube channel. So we'll include that in our follow-up as well for easy access for all of you in attendance here today.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Austin. So as Austin said, you can view all those on our YouTube channel. You can also explore the Acumatica community. So we always include that. There's definitely some discussions going around about AI within the community. So you can kind of check out what other people are doing, some of their thoughts as well, and post your own opinions. And then reach out to us. I know there was a couple of questions on licensing for some of the features that we demonstrated today. So reach out to any of those emails or directly to myself or Austin or Jeremy as well. But we're happy to kind of triage those and get you guys put in the right direction with those questions as well. And then next webinar will be all about 2025 R2. So as we saw some of the exciting stuff that's coming, that might be a little bit pushed back into the 2026 releases, but there still is a lot of exciting stuff within that next version of Acumatica. So if you scan that QR code there, you can register now. We'll also be sending out an invite, but that will take place on October 15th at 11 a.m. Central Time. And we'll walk through kind of the highlights of what's new within that version of Acumatica. So with that, I think no more questions. Again, reach out if anything comes up and we're happy to assist. But thank you all for attending. I know this is an exciting topic, so hopefully there will be more to come. All right. Bye.